In this video, we're going to consider 50 mouse/trackpad tips for iPadOS 13.4. Yes, trackpad support finally comes to the iPad, and it's really good. So in this video, we're going to start at the very beginning and work our way through all the cursor functionality. But first, a word from our sponsor. So the iPad Pro just received mouse and trackpad support, making it ideal for professional workflows. But no iPad Pro is complete without the Hyperdrive USB-C hub. This 6-port hub, available in both space gray and silver, brings much needed I/O to your iPad Pro. So you just plug it in like this. That's all you do. It's super slim, it mounts flush against your iPad Pro, and you're instantly ready to tackle all sorts of I/O, like 3.5mm headphone jack, SD card and micro SD, USB-A and USB-C pass-through charging as well. And while other hubs only support 4K at 30Hz over HDMI, Hyper supports 4K at 60Hz. Yes, trackpad support is finally here, but no iPad Pro is complete without the Hyperdrive. Click the link in the description to get yours today, and special thanks to Hyper for sponsoring 9 to 5 Mac. Thanks for watching 9 to 5 Mac. Be sure to thumbs up, click the subscribe button, and then enable notifications with the bell icon so you won't miss any upcoming videos. So the first thing we want to talk about is pairing a trackpad or mouse to your iPad running iPadOS 13.4. So the first thing you want to do is get your mouse and trackpad nearby. You can see here I'm using the Magic Trackpad. I'm also using a Magic Mouse. Both of them are turned off right now. So we're going to go to Settings and then go to Bluetooth. And then we're going to power on our Magic Mouse first. So I'm going to turn that on here. All right, so it's on. So now under other devices, you should see the Magic Mouse appear there. There it is, Magic Mouse 2. Just tap on that, and that will pair your Magic Mouse. Now in previous versions of iPadOS, you were not able to pair a Magic Mouse at all, even with iPadOS 13's accessibility function. So that is a nice feature, to be able to actually use a Magic Mouse with your iPad. And it's not just the iPad Pro, it works with other iPads as well. That is so cool. So we're gonna do the same thing here with our Magic Trackpad. Just turn it on, and there it is, ready to go. So just tap it to connect. So cool to have both Magic Trackpad and Magic Mouse paired with my iPad. Let's move on. Now you can easily track your mouse or trackpad's battery life right from the home screen using a handy widget. We're gonna use the battery widget, so we're just gonna swipe over to reveal that widget. There you go, under batteries, notice there, both my trackpad and Magic Mouse battery life, and it looks like I'm good to go with regard to battery. Now until Apple's new Magic Trackpad Smart Keyboard ships, I'm going to be just using a standalone Magic Trackpad with my iPad. I prefer that over the Magic Mouse. You just get more control, more gesture ability. And outside that, the trackpad just seems more stable, more responsive with gestures and moving about the OS. It just seems like it was designed more so with the trackpad in mind than with the mouse in mind. So I definitely recommend, if you're going to be using a pointer on your iPad, to use a Magic Trackpad, or preferably if you're an iPad Pro user and you have the cash, then the Magic Keyboard for iPad Pro, which ships this May, is by far the ideal solution. Now I wanted to briefly talk about some of my preferred trackpad customizations while doing this video. So if you go to Settings and then you go to Accessibility, you can further customize the pointer experience. So once you're in Accessibility, you want to click where it says Pointer Control. And inside there, you're going to notice several options for customizing the pointer experience. So you can enable or disable trackpad inertia. And we'll talk about this a little bit more later, but basically having this on makes it feel like your trackpad's sort of like a hockey puck, where it continues to move a little bit even after you lift your finger off the mouse or the trackpad. So it just doesn't feel all that precise. So I like to turn that off, especially for the sake of this tutorial. So I keep that off. I also like to disable pointer animations, and you can see it's disabled there because I turned it off, but by default that is on. So let me turn it on and show you how pointer animations work. So when you take your pointer and you move it over a button like that, it's almost as if your pointer morphs into that button and it assumes the entirety of the button, which makes the pointer disappear. And I find that to be a little bit jarring. So when you turn off pointer animations, you still do get an animation when you mouse over the button, but it doesn't assume the whole pointer and it doesn't make the pointer disappear. I don't know, maybe I just need some time to get used to it, but I just find it a little bit jarring when moving over buttons and app icons. Now, just for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to up the pointer size so that it's easy for you guys to see exactly where I'm pointing. But it's important to remember that iPadOS is still a touch-first operating system, so touch is going to take preference over pointer input. For instance, when I tap on the screen, notice the pointer disappears immediately. So pointer input with a mouse or trackpad will always take a backseat to direct touch input. So that's just something to keep in mind as we get used to this new indirect input method. So keeping that in mind, the fact that we're going from a direct input method where you're touching the assets on screen to invoke a reaction, it's not quite the same as indirect input with the mouse or trackpad. So if you're not someone who normally uses a regular laptop computer, it may take some getting used to. But what's interesting is that the pointer, notice its shape. It's not the same as a desktop pointer where you have that little triangle. No, this is a circle. And it was purposely designed this way to represent the tip of the finger. Again, a good reminder that this is a touch-first platform and touch comes first. But with that being said, Apple has done a remarkable job implementing advanced cursor control in iPadOS. When using touch input on iPadOS, when you want to open an app or open a link, you simply tap the location. So tapping the Stocks app opens the Stocks app, tapping Settings opens Settings. Pretty simple and straightforward stuff. Well, the same principle applies to pointer input. So you simply move the pointer on top of the Stocks app and then click with the trackpad like that. Another key way to control your iPad is scrolling through lists and things of that nature. So I'm going to show you how you can do that with the mouse or trackpad. But first, let me show you how to scroll with the finger. Obviously, you simply scroll with one finger like that, tap and drag to scroll through lists, web pages, etc. On the Magic Mouse, it's similar. All you do is you scroll with your finger on top of the mouse like this. So it's indirect, but you're able to scroll through a list or on a website with touch input right on your mouse. Now with the trackpad, it's a little bit different because the trackpad itself doesn't move. So to move the cursor, you use one finger and drag your finger along the trackpad. So since one finger moves the cursor, you're not going to be able to use one finger to scroll. So instead, we're going to use, two fingers to scroll through a list, website, etc. So move two fingers up to scroll down and two fingers down to scroll up. I have to say, trackpad control is really impressive in iPadOS. So when mousing over buttons, apps, and links, it's pretty self-explanatory. If you've used a PC trackpad before, you're going to know exactly what to expect here for the most part. Since pointer animations are enabled by default, I'm going to go ahead and re-enable those as I go through this quick exercise to show you the various mouse over techniques. So we're going to go to our home screen. Now, when you mouse over an app icon, notice how it sort of zooms in on that icon. You get a little shadow around the icon, and as you move subtly, it moves the icon and sort of wiggles it around there. And as I noted at the outset, I'm not a huge fan of these pointer animations. I think they sort of make it difficult to know where the pointer is exactly. It's a little bit disorienting, a little bit jarring. So that's just going to be something you're going to have to decide as to whether or not you like having those animations turned on or off. And again, the buttons, you can see how the pointer assumes that button. But notice how the cursor changes as you mouse over these different areas. So you put it in a text field, it automatically changes to the I-beam. Notice the animation as it goes from cursor to I-beam. That's pretty cool looking. Then you mouse over to the button, it assumes the button. Very nicely animated, but again, having those pointer animations on takes some getting used to for sure. All right, so let's talk about the various ways to get back to the home screen from an application using your pointer. The first way is to move the pointer down to the home indicator at the bottom of the interface. And then once you do so, you're going to notice that it sort of snaps to the home indicator like this, thanks to those pointer animations, and then all you need to do is click like that to go back home. Of course, that's not the only way to get back home. Let me show you another way using gestures. So I'm going to use a 4-finger swipe up gesture like that to get back to the home screen. Let me show you again here. Let's go back, and then I'll use 4 fingers swipe up just like that. So let me show you another way. You just perform a long swipe down past the home indicator and it will go back to the home screen like that. So again, a long swipe down as if you were trying to push past the home indicator to go back to the home screen. I find this actually fairly easy to do with the mouse. You simply drag down like that and it moves the cursor past that home indicator, pushing past it, getting back to the home screen. Let me show you one more time. Drag down like that to get back home. Now here's one more, similar to the pinch out gesture you use directly on the iPad with touch input. You can use a similar gesture here on the trackpad. You just simply take 3 to 4 fingers and pinch out like that to get home. Now let me show you how to reveal the app switcher. All you do is you take 3 to 4 fingers and swipe up and hold like that to reveal the app switcher. Let me show you one more time, or a couple more times. Simply swipe up, hold, and release like that. One more time. Let's do it again. Swipe up, hold, and release. All right, so let me show you an alternative way. All you do is you swipe down past the home indicator, but hold and release. Takes a little bit more skill, I've noticed, but still possible. All you do is swipe down, hold and release to get to the app switcher. Pretty cool. Now you can also do this with the mouse, but instead of swiping down, you want to simply drag that home indicator up and release like that. So let me show you one more time. Drag up on the home indicator, hold and release. To reveal the dock, all you do is you move your pointer down to the bottom of the interface like that. Again, let me show you with the magic mouse. Move your pointer down to the bottom to reveal the dock. Now I find that this works much better with the trackpad. It seems so much more fluid and natural. This is why I say that the trackpad is by far the more preferred method of indirect input. To reveal Notification Center, just move your pointer up to the upper left-hand corner right by the date and time. The pointer will grab onto the date and time, and then you simply click. So once it does that, locks onto the date and time, click, and that reveals Notification Center. So let's try it again. Go up to the date and time and click. There you go. So another way to reveal Notification Center, and the way I prefer, is just simply to drag up as if you were trying to drag past the top of the display. So drag up past that date and time to reveal Notification Center, but you can actually do it in other places, like right in the middle if you want to do that. And even if an app's open, of course. So open up Safari, push past the top, and there you go, there's Notification Center. And as expected, revealing Control Center is also very similar. So simply move the pointer to the upper right hand corner. You'll see it snap into place, just like that. And then from there, you just click like that. And there's your Control Center. And the second method involves moving your pointer past the top of the upper right hand corner, and that too will reveal the Control Center interface. To expand the various Control Center elements, you can click and hold, just like this. You can also hold the Control key on a paired keyboard and then click on the element to initiate an alternate click. Works just like it works on a desktop environment as far as initiating an alternate click. But here's my favorite method, using a 2-finger tap, like this. Expands that element. So easy to do, and so quick with just a tap of 2 fingers, and you can go even deeper, for example by 2-finger tapping on the Wi-Fi button or the Bluetooth button to select from among available devices. So there are a couple of other basic concepts here. Revealing widgets on the home screen, you can do so with the mouse. Using a single finger swipe over like that to reveal your home screen widgets if you happen to have them hidden. You can do the same thing with the trackpad, 2-finger swipe left or right to hide or show your widgets. And you can also reveal Spotlight search from your trackpad. Simply use a 2-finger swipe down like that to reveal Spotlight. Swipe back up with 2 fingers to hide Spotlight. Super simple, super easy. You can do the same thing with the mouse, but you only need 1 finger there to swipe down with 1 finger, swipe up, just like that. So we've kind of touched on this a little bit already, but revealing context menus, we'll use the app icons for an example. So if you click and hold, that basically simulates like a long press with your finger. That reveals the context menu, your quick action shortcuts. Do the same thing there. Like I showed you earlier, you can also hold the control key on your keyboard and simply tap, and that initiates an alternate click, and that shows your quick action shortcut menu for those icons. Now, you can also use a 2-finger tap, which is like a right click, and that too is a quick and easy way to reveal those context menus anywhere within iPadOS. To move app icons on the home screen, it is extremely easy. Just click, drag like that, and you're done. You can also use the trackpad to pinch to zoom within apps like Safari, so just pinch out to zoom in. And then you can move around the interface with the 2 fingers. Pinch out, pinch in. It really is super simple. The same thing applies to maps. So pinch out to zoom in. It feels very natural coming from the iPad touchscreen interface. You can also swipe between pages in Safari, which is similar to how you would do so on the Mac. So I'm going to go deep here into the tech specs of the MacBook Air and use 2 fingers now to swipe back or forward. So going back a couple of pages, going forward. Let's go back again. Let's go back 1 more page. And you can do the same thing with the Magic Mouse, except for this time you use a single finger to swipe back and forward and navigate within Safari. Alright, so now let's talk about the available trackpad and mouse options. So we're going to go into Settings, go to General, and then you'll see where it says Keyboard. And right below that, when I turn my Magic Trackpad on, you'll see the trackpad option. There you go. So that appears with the trackpad paired via Bluetooth. So you can just click that, and there you'll see the various options available to you. Now watch what happens to this panel when I turn on the Magic Mouse, which has already been paired. It turns into trackpad and mouse. So now you get both trackpad and mice options underneath. So the first setting you'll find there is tracking speed, and that applies to both the mouse and the trackpad. You can just simply move that to the beginning, closer to the turtle, and the tracking is very slow, almost unusable, right? So you definitely don't want it all the way towards the beginning. Right around here is the sweet spot in my opinion. Don't want it too fast, but definitely not too slow. And then you have the natural scrolling option. So when you scroll up, the content goes down, and vice versa. So when you scroll down, the content goes up. That's more of a natural scrolling, and that's been a part of macOS for quite a while now. Now, if you turn that off, when you scroll up, the content goes up. When you scroll down, the content goes down. I personally prefer natural scrolling. Now, you've probably seen me use tap to click throughout this tutorial. That's because I had this option enabled. Without tap to click enabled, you actually have to physically click in on the trackpad to interact with the content on screen. For instance, these tables here, just tapping them doesn't do anything, but if you click, that will actually switch between those different fields. Now, if I turn tap to click on, I just simply tap lightly like that, and I can easily switch between these 2 fields. It's just my opinion, but if you're using a trackpad, I definitely recommend keeping tap to click enabled. Now you can also enable a 2-finger secondary click, aka right click, for context menus, and you've no doubt seen me do that as well throughout this tutorial. So just turn on the switch, and now we can use that 2-finger secondary click, for instance, to right click on an app icon to open up the quick action shortcuts, and anywhere else within iOS that has context menus that you can open up. Alright, so let's talk about secondary clicking with the Magic Mouse. So you can enable that via settings. You can change it to a right click or a left click. Obviously, you probably want to right click so that differentiates from the left. And that right allows you to access context menus just by right clicking, for instance, on an app icon to open up its quick action shortcut menu. Now let's talk about text editing, specifically using the pointer for precision cursor placement. Now, of course, you can do that to a degree with your finger, just by tapping and dragging on the cursor itself, a new feature in iPadOS 13. But as good as that is, it doesn't compete with the speed and precision of pointer control with your Magic Trackpad. So you can get that cursor exactly where you want it in basically no time flat. Now with pointer control on the trackpad, you can also easily select words, just double tap like that. So just put the I-beam cursor over your word, double tap to select that word. Likewise, you can also select a block of text. So instead of a double tap, you use a triple tap. So I'll select this entire block of text with the triple tap, and I'll do the same to this block of text. Now you can also highlight specific items using a click and drag or tap and drag. So just tap, drag to precisely select the desired text. You can also move text around easily. So we're just going to triple tap to select a block of text. All right, and just click, drag, and reposition that text. Now let's talk about some fun multitasking tips here. How to swipe between apps first of all. So we're going to open up an app. Let's start with Safari here. And with that app open, use a 3 or 4 finger swipe left or right to swipe between each of your open spaces, similar to what you'll find when swiping between spaces and full screen applications on macOS. Now engaging split view is just as easy as it is doing so with your finger. So all you do is you click and drag one of the applications that you want to add to your split view, drag it to the left or to the right side of an existing application, and there you go. And of course you can manipulate this space as desired. You can change the ratio just like that. Everything you can do with touch input, you can do here with cursor input. You can also engage slide over. So we're going to take an application from our dock and drop it right in the middle. So we'll grab the Notes app, drag it right in the middle, let go, and there you go, a slide over window. All right, so let's add a second application. How about the calendar app? Just drag that up, let it go, and there's a second application in our slide over stack. So let's add one more app. We'll drag the music app up like that. So now we have multiple applications in our slide over stack. Now with pointer input, you can easily hide or show your slide over apps simply by taking your pointer and pushing it over to the right edge. So push over to the right edge, that reveals slide over. This is one of the gestures that I think still could use a little bit of work. It's not as fluid as you might expect. To switch between slide over apps, use a 3 finger swipe on the slide over stack like this. Easily switch between those. And if you swipe up with 3 fingers, you can reveal all the apps in the stack. And of course, you can close out of individual apps like that. Now let's talk about some of the advanced accessibility options you'll find for pointer control. So we're going to go down to accessibility in settings and go to pointer control. And there you'll see quite a few options to customize the pointer experience. So the first one is to increase the contrast. So if you have trouble seeing the pointer, this can be a good option to enable to give it more contrast on screen. You can also change auto hide settings for the pointer. Of course, if you touch, the pointer disappears, but the pointer will also time out after 2 seconds by default. You can go in there and change that up so you can make it as high as 15 seconds so the pointer stays on screen if untouched for 15 seconds. That's a little too long in my opinion. Of course, you can outright disable auto hide as well and the pointer will stay on the screen. But I definitely prefer keeping that on. You can also change the pointer outline color. So if you go to color, you can customize the outer area of the pointer. So you can see it's white right now, but of course I can change that to blue or to red, green, yellow, or orange. And I can also change the size of the stroke so that color pops out even more. But for me, I like that pointer to be as low key as possible. So we're going to select none. How about that? Speaking of low key, we can change that pointer size using the slider all the way to the left to make the pointer smaller. I prefer that method, but for the sake of this video, I made it a little bit larger. But you can really go overboard if you want to. You can make that cursor massive, as you can see there. And like the color feature, these are all very nice features, helping those with visual impairments and other challenges be able to use cursor control effectively. And we already kind of touched on this quite a bit, but just for completion's sake, you can of course disable the pointer animations. Of course, by default, when you mouse over a button or an icon, that pointer sort of disappears and melts into that button or icon, and it can be a little hard to discern where that pointer is as a result. But even without visual impairments, I prefer to have animations disabled. And as mentioned at the outset, disabling trackpad inertia is something I personally recommend, because otherwise the pointer sort of feels like it's floating away, or it feels like it's on ice almost. Hard to describe, but I just don't like the feeling of having trackpad inertia enabled. Now this is coming from a longtime Mac user, so perhaps if you're not a longtime Mac user, you may not feel the same. Maybe I just need to get used to it. And then you can also change the scrolling speed. So when you're scrolling here in a list or on Safari, you can change the speed of that, lending it less velocity with each swipe. And then if you turn it up, it definitely goes a lot faster. So that's overboard, obviously. You probably want to have it right at default. Seems to work pretty good for me. So folks, that is a full walkthrough of mouse and trackpad functionality in iPadOS 13.4. I may have missed a function or two or three or four. Let me know down below in the comment section if you caught something that I did miss, and perhaps I'll include it in a future video. This is Jeff with the 9 to 5 Mac. Special thanks to Hyper for sponsoring 9 to 5 Mac on YouTube. Head over to hypershop.com and get your Hyperdrive USB-C hub for iPad Pro. It's a 6-port hub that adds all sorts of I/O to your iPad Pro. This, along with new trackpad support, makes the iPad Pro a bona fide workhorse. Once again, go to hypershop.com to get your Hyperdrive USB-C hub today.